Welcome to video number 4 for Chapter 12, The Second War for Independence and the Upsurge of Nationalism. We begin talking about sharing the Oregon Territory with Great Britain and acquiring Florida. At the Anglo-American Convention in 1818, the United States was permitted to share Newfoundland fisheries with Canada. It also fixed a vague northern limit of Louisiana along the 49th parallel from the Lake of the Woods in Minnesota to the Rocky Mountains, and provided for a 10-year joint occupation of the Oregon country without surrender of rights or claims of either Britain or America. This map shows the U.S.-British boundary settlement in 1818, showing the 49th parallel as the new boundary between the United States and Canada. Now, when it comes to Semitropical Spanish Florida, Americans had already claimed West Florida, which had been ratified by Congress in 1812, but the bulk of Florida remained under Spanish rule. Uprisings in South America forced Spain to remove troops from Florida, and Andrew Jackson secured the commission to enter Spanish territory. This map shows Florida, which was separated into East Florida and West Florida. East Florida is the remainder of the Spanish territory that we would eventually acquire in 1819. Exceeding his instructions, Jackson continued to sweep across Florida, attacking Indians and any who assisted them. James Monroe consulted his cabinet, and all he wanted to do was discipline Jackson for his actions, except John Quincy Adams, who was Secretary of State. Instead, John Quincy Adams pushed the Florida Purchase Treaty in 1819, which is also known as the Adams-Onis Treaty. In this treaty, Spain ceded Florida and claims to Oregon to the United States in exchange for Texas. The autocrats of Europe had stated at this time that the world must be made safe from democracy, and rebellions were smothered in both Italy and Spain in 1821 and 1823. This alarmed Americans, because if the Europeans interfered in the New World, republicanism would certainly suffer irreparable harm, and the physical security of the United States, which was the mother of democratic countries, would be endangered. Russia's push from Alaska began when the Tsar, in 1821, claimed jurisdiction over 100 miles of open sea to the 51st parallel, which is most of British Columbia. Russia had trading posts as far as the San Francisco Bay, and Americans feared that Russia would block access to California, which was a prospective U.S. window to the Pacific Ocean. England also wanted the United States to issue a joint pledge asserting territorial integrity of the New World. Adams concluded a self-denying alliance with Britain would hamper American expansion, and it was unnecessary, and he suspected that England would block any European intervention in South America. So, at the urging of John Quincy Adams, President Monroe issues the Monroe Doctrine in 1823. In his annual message to Congress, Monroe issued the stern warning to Europe. Number 1, non-colonization, and number 2, non-intervention. Basically, regarding Russia's advance in the Northwest, he proclaimed the era of colonization over, and he warned against foreign interventions, especially in South America. The European powers were offended, but could do very little because of the state of the British Navy. Russia relented even before the doctrine was released. They signed the Russo-American Treaty with the United States in 1824, which fixed Russia's southern line at the 40th parallel, which is the present southern tip of the Alaska Panhandle. The Monroe Doctrine might be more accurately described as the self-defense doctrine. Monroe was concerned about the security of his own country, not Latin America. This is a map showing the West and the Northwest from 1818 to 1824, again showing the new border between the United States and Canada at the 49th parallel, and the Oregon country, which was claimed jointly by the United States and Great Britain. The Monroe Doctrine has never been greater than America's power to eject a trespasser, and this was never law, domestic law or international law. This was merely a personalized statement of foreign policy by President Monroe. And this was expressing basically the post-1812 nationalism that was then energizing the United States. This is the chronology from the chapter, and we'll continue to talk about examples of nationalism and sectionalism as we move forward into our chapter 13 lessons.